The information presented is for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are not necessarily the opinions of any Daikin company. This information should not be confused for accounting, legal, medical, or other professional advice. Please seek advice from a qualified professional for any specific questions.
Welcome to the Accelerated HVAC Success program. My name is Ben Middleton. I'm the National Sales Training Manager for the Goodman, Amana, and Daikin brands. Today, we're joined here with Dan Clapper. He is with Interplay Learning Solutions. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ben.
So, Dan, you and I were talking a little bit before, and I'm going to steal a phrase that Crystal Williams, one of our other vendors, has coined. You are a true trade baby. You grew up in this industry.
That's true. My father had his own HVAC company as I was growing up, and dragged me out to the job sites when I was just old enough to hold tools, probably.
So you were out in upstate New York, in Albany, correct?
Yeah, just south of Albany, a small town called Saugerties.
Okay. So you've probably seen a lot of different things. What did your dad primarily, major in as far as in the HVAC space?
Yeah, HVAC. So we did a lot of furnaces, split systems, and some boiler work too.
Okay. And then you moved on. Tell us a little bit about your history, how you've evolved through the industry.
Sure. Well, one of the stories I like to tell is I went to college and I dropped out. Probably like most tradespeople, I didn't like to sit in a classroom and learn. I like using my hands, right? Worked in wholesale for about 10 years in a distributor in Poughkeepsie, New York. Learned a lot about how systems work. Manual J, did a lot of design, things like that. And then shortly after that is when I went to the manufacturing side. So I worked for a lot of manufacturers, including Daikin.
Okay. And now you're with Interplay Learning Solutions. What brought you into Interplay?
I just love the way that they have training that is engaging and scalable, really, where you can create a program around training instead of just keeping it like a one-off event.
And it's interesting because I think for as long as I've been in this industry, maybe even as long as you've been in the industry, one of the biggest challenge our industries has faced is finding good, skilled people to come in and to be able to do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah, it's so true. I think one of the statistics we hear is for every 7 people that are retiring or leaving the industry, there's only 2 coming through the trade schools right now. So what we're seeing is a lot of contractors are almost becoming their own trade school to supplement what's coming through the trade schools. Like building a training program in-house.
Well, and if you think about it, I mean, if you're a large dealer, maybe you have the resources to be able to build that lab and to even employ a full-time instructor to really truly run that lab and run the curriculum. But in a lot of instances, you have a service manager that's trying to, by day, be a service manager, and then by night, be the instructor running the school. Or even sometimes you have another senior service tech that is charged with, hey, I need you to train and develop all of these people that are coming in. Challenge with that is there's no formal instructional training. And so somebody, just because you're good at something doesn't make you a great instructor. And so this can create some frustration for both the person that has the skill set and trying to transfer it to others, and then also for the students that are in the classroom.
100%. Interplay Learning is when I first learned about Bloom's taxonomy, right? We have to take people through a learning journey. And a lot of times what we see contractors do is they'll go right to on-the-job training. So they're teaching someone the how before they teach them the what and the why and what are these components and how do they work together. And a lot of times these service managers don't have the patience to explain the refrigeration cycle 100 times over, right?
And with that, you get a lot of people, again, that are, I know I connect R to R. Not really quite sure what R does, but
Right.
I know I connect R to R and W to W and Y to Y. And and I see this so often. We'll put simple quizzes out and just do a knowledge check or a skill assessment and find out just really how little a lot of the people within the industry know.
It's so true. And we do a lot of assessments too. And I mean, even some senior technicians that have been doing it 20, 30 years, they know how to do it, but they're like you said, they know art goes to art. They might not know the why or the how. So it's tough for them to teach it to the newer techs coming in too.
So you've been on the manufacturing side, and you've had the opportunity to even go out and work with other distributors, right?
Sure.
And so you've probably done the lunch and learn circuit, where you go out and do these classes during a lunch that is provided by the distributor, and maybe you've even done longer classes that you've done before. But what are some of the challenges with techs coming in to a distributor to do that learning in that space?
Yeah, I mean, I remember teaching a bunch of classes, and really there's a couple challenges. Is a lot of times the students within that class, they have a wide range of skill set. Sometimes the stuff I would be teaching would be way over their head,
Mm,
or it would be too basic for them. And then the second part is a, a lot of companies treat training as a one-off event.
mm.
So the technicians learn it that day, but if they don't go apply it, the knowledge starts to go away. So I look at it at two ways: is let's start figuring out ways to where we can meet learners where they are and give them the training they need in that moment. And then secondly, let's continue that training over time in a continuous fashion. So we're building that scaffolding of learning and taking people up a journey to becoming that master technician.
And so I think before technology like virtual reality and simulation based training really was introduced into the HVAC space, because it's been around for a long time.
Sure.
What we had was voice over PowerPoints, or maybe they got a little bit more fancy and they had an actual video that was recorded with a live instructor. And then we started to see some animations that were created and put together. But you mentioned something interesting in the early of this. You said that those traditional learning methods that you had maybe in the university setting didn't necessarily relate to a lot of people that have decided to get into the trades.
Mhm.
So, how do you see retention for somebody that has to sit in front of a screen and watch something?
Yeah, it's so true. So the knowledge, and we have charts, and we check the when you say retention, the retention of knowledge of what
Hmm.
they're learning, right? So we have charts, and video based learning. I mean, it's, I don't know, somewhere in the 20 to 30% range of knowledge retention. But when you get into simulations is where we create an environment where you're actually, instead of just guessing an A, B, C on a test, you actually have to know where to put the leads on the multimeter, and you have to go through this procedural process. It You start to build this muscle memory,
Hmm.
and we're seeing 80 to 90% retention rate of the knowledge.
Just when you put it into that interactive type, either a first person shooter type format,
Sure.
or actually going into headset. And now you truly are getting muscle memory because you're learning in a 3D environment.
Yeah, so when we build simulations, we build them for whether to be used on a laptop, desktop, or an iPad. But the VR aspect is so exciting, and it's fun for all ages too. I think sometimes we hear, oh, this is just for the kids. I've seen senior techs with gray hair out there just having a blast with it.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed, we do a lot of live training in VR. And the biggest thing that I will say is as soon as everybody gets in a headset, you just get a ton of laughter.
Exactly.
And when people are having fun, you've got all these endorphins that are being released in their brain, and all this dopamine that's being released. And that actually sears in that memory and keeps that retention there. And so if we can make training fun and not this laborious task of, okay, now I need to sit and watch this video for the next hour.
Hmm.
Um, I think that really is a big game changer as we look at the trades.
Yeah, exactly. And even more so, I mean, a thick textbook with 1,000 pages. That's tough retain that knowledge.
Absolutely. So as we look at that, obviously Daikin, Goodman, and Amana have partnered with Interplay,
Mhm.
and so we have made the platform available to the whole entire industry as we build these Daikin, Goodman, and Amana simulations in conjunction with Interplay and put those together. But then Interplays on top of that has built this huge library
Mhm.
of all of this great general skills. How does a business owner, no matter what size, get the full use out of the Interplay platform? What are some of the best practices that you've seen that contractors are employing where they're really getting the best results?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and I think the way I look at it is learner outcomes and business outcomes.
Hmm.
So when you think about a training program, a lot of people are thinking about it in the moment. Oh, my tech made a mistake. Let's do some spot training. And I think that's important. But really, the way I look at it is, how do we build a programmatic view over it? How are we going to train these technicians over the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 years? And how do we add little pieces of training over time that create this career journey?
Mm.
Right. So we're seeing a best practice is, instead of just having an HVAC technician, you have a tech one, a tech two, a tech three, and there's this progression of knowledge. There's this progressive of learning over time. And it's so awesome because for the business outcomes, you're retaining the employees. They're going to want to stay along for that journey instead of just jumping from company to company. You're going to have less mistakes in the field because they're actually learning the right processes. And from the learner outcome, this is where they're building the confidence, and they're building uh, the the whatever it's called, the loyalty to the company.
Mm.
I mean, they're like, this company makes me happy. I'm learning and I'm growing here. I want to stay. So don't look at training as this one-off event. How do we build these career journeys? And that's when a company dials that in, they have actually too many people applying for the jobs. They get the pick of the crop, right? So it's super exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing because I think there's so many things when you look at training. So one of the things, even the person that's been in the industry for 40 years, the one thing I'll tell them is going to a training class may just remind you of something that you did 10 years ago that made you successful that you've forgotten about. And
Yeah.
so just that reminder, it's not always a bad idea to go back to the basics. One of my favorite quotes out there is by Vince Lombardi. And supposedly, he started every single football season with, "Gentlemen, this is a football."
Mhm.
And the reason for that is because the basics are what win the game. And so taking every tech and saying, "Hey, we're coming into heating season. Uh, let's all go back to the basics and let's go revisit combustion theory." That's what a great way to start off that season. And then when we're going into AC season, let's go back to the basics of refrigeration theory and just
Yeah.
make sure everybody's up to speed on that so that we can go out and win this season.
I love that so much, and I think that's so powerful because as technicians, I mean, I've probably done it myself. Over time, we learn bad habits,
Mm.
and those bad habits are, because we're trying to get the job done faster, and we're like, maybe I don't need to take these couple steps, and those couple steps are the basics. This is the correct process of doing something.
Well, and we get out on that one job that has that really weird thing that we finally figured out and we solved. And now, for whatever reason, we think every system we go on is going to have that weird thing that, and we kind
Yeah.
of get blinders put on.
Yep.
And so, hopefully, by going back and revisiting the training, it releases those blinders. But the other thing is, we can get new perspectives.
Mhm.
And so, you may hear one trainer say something. I don't know how many business owners I have heard say, "I've told my guys this 100 times, and you came in and said the exact same thing that I've been saying, and they finally got it."
Yeah.
And so you remove those blinders that people have just because they're seeing it from a different perspective, a slightly different angle, and finally those things start to click and fall into place. But then technology in our industry is changing at just a breakneck speed.
Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, I forget what they call it, like the half-life of skills. I mean,
Hmm.
manufacturers used to release a new unit every 10 years, and now it's every 5 years, and now it's every 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's just the amount of knowledge and skill that we have to develop at that speed too. And again, we see a lot of technicians, "Oh, I've learned this 40 years ago. It's gonna stay the same way." There's some different controls, and there's a different way to wire now,
Right, right.
right? So
It's so interesting as you look at it, and then of course there is the opportunity, like you brought up, that employee retention,
Mhm.
being able to promote from within. How rewarding is it to have that maintenance technician that you promoted to service tech, and then that service tech that you promoted to lead service tech, eventually to running your service management team, and now as your general manager of your whole entire organization? I mean, when everybody can see that that journey is possible within an organization, that gives people something to shoot for. And that's why I think those career paths, those learning paths, those
Mhm.
skill paths are
Yeah.
so important in every organization.
100% agree. 100% agree. And a term we like to talk about too is economic mobility. You know, as a business owner, you're giving people the opportunity that might have not been good at school, might have dropped out of college, might have
Mm.
dropped out of high school, and giving them a path to have a career and make a good living at it too. And that's when you see, I mean, we see testimonials and just students light up because they never thought they could have a chance of a career like this, and now they have it.
So Dan, I just want to go a little bit another tangent here. So you actually have you're working on a book, or I think the book may be just on the verge of being completed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I so the book is called it's all about rising to the top of your field. And
Hmm.
in my opinion, all of the rewards are in that top 10th percentile. You know, the confidence, the monetary rewards, the recognition, all of the things are at the top of the journey. So how do we create? Sometimes if the companies aren't creating it for us, how do we build our own career journeys? And how do we grow? And how do we make sure we manage our time correctly so we can get that done? And it's such a fun journey, and it has this almost snowball effect. Is what, and we see a interplay too. Is you start on the learning journey, you start learning just a couple pieces of information, and
Mm.
then that confidence builds. And now I want to learn a little bit more. And now I want to learn little bit more. And then that journey to that top 10% of your field is just the journey is what most of the fun is too,
Hmm.
because I'm learning and growing and learning and growing. And that's just so exciting. So I have a book that's almost done and I can't wait to release it.
Well, I can't wait for it to be done too. And when you have that book, we'd love to have you back on here. And I would love to get into the stories that you've captured from that.
Sure.
I think it is such a great concept. How can I be the top 10% of my particular career in my field of what I do? Because I think that's something that everybody should be aspiring to. And the tools are there. And I think, what Interplay has put in place is a huge game changer for every organization out there. I would say to all of those that are out here, if you're interested, please go to the HVAC Learning Campus, and you can go ahead and get access to the Goodman, Amana, or Daikin version of Interplay and start using that right away today. And then as you get more proficient in that, reach out to Interplay. You can look at getting access to the full entire library version that they have available. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. And for all of you that are out there, if you liked this episode, please go ahead, hit that like button. Also, make sure that you hit the follow button so that you can be informed of all of our upcoming episodes that we have. Until next time, we'll see everyone later.